So to do this, we had to use a different material.
All right, so I've been meaning to say something about this as someone who was on submarines in the Navy. I drove submarines in the Navy even, so just like Stockton Rush drove his submersible. Um, when you hear him talking about safety regulations and how there may be overregulation, the reason that is because we haven't lost a submarine since 1963. United States military. These regulations and certifications are in place for that reason, to protect expensive equipment and people, ultimately. Um, Submarine's no good if you can only take it down a few times and then it is destroyed. So, the one thing that I think a lot of people aren't mentioning, though, some are, but is I think Stockton Rush wanted to die on the sub in a way. I think he was too smart to just think he was going to be able to take it down multiple times and not have it fail in a catastrophic way. And he had already had some negative experiences on previous dives, so I think he knew the limitations of this submarine already. And for whatever reason, he kept going down, and he took people along with him. And to me, he's kind of comparable to the Grizzly Man, who Timothy Treadwell. He had been out in Alaska for 13 summers. He knew what the bears were capable of, but he kept staying longer and pushing areas that he knew he shouldn't be pushing. And then he took a girl out there with him, and that's really the sad part is these people who may or may not have known better lost their lives because of Stockton Rush and Timothy Treadwell in similar ways, and when you're talking about depths, there's a lot of stuff that submariners can't say because they've obligated themselves, like me and anybody else, not to talk about things. But with the loss of the submarine, a lot of stuff is coming out that I've read, so you can look up information if you want to. But when you have these parameters, not just regulation like Rush was talking about, but parameters where you're talking about depths that you can operate at for safety reasons, and like a test depth, a crush depth, things like that, things where you can operate safely, and then a depth that you should not exceed. Um, Even a submarine of that size is not going to stop on a dime. So if you had a problem with the hull where it's cracking or whatever, like he had said, that's not going to be ample time to solve the problem. And when you're talking about military submarines, the maximum depth is far beyond the safe depth that we would operate at, the test depth, so to speak. And that's because submarines don't stop on a dime. You might overshoot your test depth trying to dive to it, depending on how fast you're going and things like that. It's you got to be good at driving the submarine to, stop it right on a certain depth. So a lot of these things are in place for safety, and it's something that he didn't seem too concerned about. But I just don't believe he was that dumb. He's an educated guy. I think people who are saying he was just stupid or things like that are being very naive. I think he, for whatever reason, I had to believe that he knew that submarine was going to fail in a big way at some point. I just don't believe that he didn't know. And I think ultimately he didn't mind taking people along for that, which is, is just not cool to do. If he wanted to go down there by himself and lose his life, that's up to him. But to take people along with you, much like Timothy Treadwell, to take a girl out there and stay out there longer than you're supposed to, knowing that was dangerous, that's not cool to do. That's mean-spirited or evil-spirited. Even if they can say, "Oh, this guy had good intentions" or whatever. Treadwell, Stockton Rush, something inside of them didn't differentiate between that. I don't mind taking another person along with me in a situation where there's a pretty good chance I could lose my life. And those people didn't know that. I don't think the people that went down there, for the most part, knew that. Some of the ones that didn't go down did know that, but just like with the Grizzly Man, I don't think Amy Huguenard, who was his girlfriend, knew that that's the situation they were going to end up in. Now she didn't. She did write about knowing some things because she wrote a letter that she was nervous about how long they were staying, but he may not have told her how long they were going to stay. So, yeah, I think in both of these situations, you had somebody who, for whatever reason, had some bad intentions inside of them, and other people lost their lives for that. I don't think he didn't know what he was doing. I just don't believe that. So, yeah, it's unfortunate. I know a lot of people are kind of curious about submarines now, which I guess are people that are in that world. Submarine world in the Navy is not very big. It's all volunteer. When I was in, it was men only, but I know they have women on submarines now. I don't know how many or what the quota is or percentage, but it's a small community. I mean, it's still volunteer only. They can't make you go there. So, yeah, it's I guess it's interesting to see people that have curiosity about this kind of stuff. But, yeah, if you have questions about some of the stuff, maybe I can answer some of them. I mean, there's a lot of people out there who have a lot more knowledge than me. You know, the guys that I think were really, really smart on submarines are guys who were like nukes, as we call them. People who worked in the engine room, you know, the aft end of the sub. Those guys are really brilliant guys, and the officers, submarine officers. Some of them are just amazingly educated, you know, and well spoken, and those are the kind of people that I would recommend talking to about, you know, submarines in general. But anybody who's been on the sub could tell you some of the day-to-day things and some things comparable to this. I mean, the sub is very different than what the military used in so many ways. So, yeah, it's just unfortunate, the whole situation.